Welcome to the OIC, otherwise known as the Omnipresent Information Connection podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Peterson.
And I'm the co-host, Noah Hansen. The Omnipresent Information Connection podcast is all about your world and your unique walk on this path called life. We present fascinating, life-changing information from around the world that has been validated. We also authenticate the information by providing you with links to where you can find out more about what we are talking about on our show. This podcast includes historically accurate, genuine facts that have helped shape our daily lives into what they are today. Hello, listeners, and welcome to the OIC podcast. We've got a super special episode for you today because not only are we talking about a meaningful life, as you saw in the title, we're also talking about Maslow's pyramid of needs. And if any of you are familiar with this is a psychological theory. This is used in study. I think I actually learned about this when I was in high school, if I remember correctly. It was either college or high school when I learned about this. And on top of that, we've got a bunch of new sounds to integrate. So we're going to have a lot of fun in this podcast. Kevin, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm blessed and highly favored. How are you, Noah?
I'm doing awesome, just like you. So I am living a meaningful life, and it feels good.
Excellent.
So what can you tell us about Maslow's pyramid of needs? Because I know that you have a background in psychology more so than I do.
Yes, but before I do that, I'm going to kind of explain more for the listeners what a meaningful life really represents.
Wonderful. That sounds good.
A meaningful life is not about being rich or about being popular or about being highly educated or being perfect. It's about being real, being humble, being strong, and being able to share ourselves and touch the lives of others in a new way.
Boom! That was a truth bomb. I agree 100%.
So now when we're talking about Maslow and the psychology behind it, the importance is in how it's done, how it's performed, how it is literally strategically put in place so that when we talk to other people, we have a kind of a pyramid structure that flows naturally down to Mother Nature, to Earth, and how the communications is like a church steeple more than a pyramid, right? Because in order to be able to bring people in, you've got to be able to have a instrument, a doorway, a way of opening one's mind to be able to allow the information to flow freely without prejudice, right?
Awesome. So I'm just going to ring the doorbell here and ask you to open that door for us. What doorway are we opening? Get us into the real meat of this.
Yes. The real meaning behind Maslow's pyramid of needs is a structured system that is so naturally put together that when all the pieces of the pyramid come together, it's a reverse pyramid to where everyone wins. It's literally like opening up your arms and giving everyone a great big psychological hug, right? And more important than that is that it's something that we do almost unknowingly, almost every day in different ways. And so for those listeners that are familiar with it, it first appeared in an academic journal in the United States in 1943. Noah, can you explain that journal?
Yes, well, that journal was called the Psychological Review, and the name of the paper that he wrote was A Theory of Human Motivation. And since appearing in that journal, his pyramid has appeared in multiple TED Talks, in psychological analysis, and many more different areas of our culture. And so I'll just do a little background of who Maslow is now. Maslow is a Jewish psychologist with Russian origins, and when he published this paper, he was 35 years old. his full name, Abraham Maslow, was looking for the meaning of life, and he wanted to find out what brings purpose into one's life. He learned a lot from very famous geniuses such as Albert Einstein. And so now we can go over what the actual parts of the pyramid are, if you're comfortable doing that right now.
Yeah.
So you may want to write this one down, listeners. You hear that? Yeah, that's a pen. So write this down and make it in a pyramid form so you can really visualize what we're talking about on this podcast. On the bottom level, which is the base of the pyramid, you have physiological needs. And physiological needs is, the body, the physical body. Then a step above that, you have safety needs. A step above that, you have belongingness and love needs. And then on top of that, you have esteem needs. And then the very tip of the pyramid is self-actualization. So if you need to pause this podcast and go back and listen to that again so that you can write them down, then we are all for that. Go right ahead. But we're just going to move on now with the physiological needs.
Mm-hmm.
Why are physiological needs so important? Why are they the base?
Physical needs are important because it allows you to be able to connect not only to yourself but to other people in a way that resonates and makes you feel whole.
And how does that have to do with our physical bodies? If we are thriving physiologically, if we have all of our physical needs met, we have food, we have shelter, we have everything we need physically, then we can be a better person to reach out to other people and help them to become whole. Is that what you're saying?
Not only that, but when you covered those areas, and listeners, this is important, is that when all of those areas that Noah just mentioned are covered, then you feel covered internally, spiritually, emotionally, intellectually, whole. This is the foundation, the starting point, the very enabling area of your life that you need to be able to not only master, but to be able to become best friends with. I don't know if you've ever gone through a best friends training course, but this would be it for sure in order to be able to have the physiological needs met. Because when you are physically fit, then your mind falls into place, your body falls into place, and that your environment that you're surrounding yourself with become molded to what you are believing in, what you are studying, what you are manifesting to become.
That makes a lot of sense because the whole way that our culture has developed and grown is when we have enough to meet the needs of the people's physiological selves. When we have enough food, when we have enough water, and we have enough transportation to get this to the people, that's when we can start building skyscrapers, right? That's when we can start building real community, even entertainment, the things that aren't fully sourced in needs, in our physiological needs, but they're more sourced in the other levels of the pyramid, and we can start really starting to thrive.
Well, yeah, and to embrace them naturally.
Yeah. Yes.
Not forcefully, right?
Yes. And another point I want to make is when your physiological needs are met, you have much less stress in your life. And when you are hungry, that's a stressor that is going to release stress hormones in your body. When you are not getting enough of any one or other vitamin, when you are dehydrated, that's a stressor on your body, and that naturally makes your mental and your emotional state worse off because those stress hormones are blocking you from really experiencing the true authenticity that you can be.
Correct. And to be able to put it simply, listeners, is that whatever you're depleted in depletes you.
There's a golden nugget. Just dropping that one for you.
All right.
I love that one. If you enjoy these noises, listeners, then let us know in the comments. Tell us which ones are your favorite, which ones are your least favorite. We want to know all the feedback we can possibly get about what we are bringing you on this podcast. I just want to make that note there. All right, so we're gonna move on to the safety needs now, or do you want to talk a little bit more about physiological needs? Because that one's pretty straightforward.
Well, it is straightforward, but understand that whatever it is that you find lacking, you lack to then emulate it in your environment.
Right.
So having a solid foundation is very important. It's critical and it's desirable because without it, it's like quicksand. It's like a mudslide. It's like anything negative. It keeps postponing you from being you.
Right. Yes. Yeah, because if you're needing to strive to meet a physiological need, then that's going to take a lot of your time for sure and attention.
Right. And so you don't want to keep postponing the greatness within you by not having the physiological needs being met today, right?
Yes, of course.
So, listeners, I'm sure by now you understand that level, right? But now I want to take you to the next level. I want to take you higher, right? But in order to be able to do that, I've got to be able to do it safely, right?
So ease of transition there.
So the ease of transition into the next one is your safety needs. Now, what do I mean by safety needs? First and foremost, people overlook this one point the most: authenticated truth. They think of, the safety of the body, the mind, the spirit, the soul, anything in your environment that is unsafe, you would want to be able to make safe. But it is so important to be able to hear the authentic truth first versus second or third or fourth or fifth, right? Understand that the reason why all of our ancestors from all generations keep talking about reading and the power of reading, right? It's that when you read, you ripen your mind, you then get a chance to be able to get a personal reflection of how someone else may have lived, how someone else may have applied, how someone else may have done something that you're wanting to be able to do. Therefore, the outcome makes you feel safe without physically doing it. Then when you actually then apply the safety standards and the measures for which your entity, your soul, your person feels the most comfortable, then it starts to be able to radiate out naturally because you're not fighting any of the unsafe elements anymore. Because you've now read like an owner's manual. You've been able to apply what you've just read. And now you're starting to be able to get a strong familiarity of what you will and will not accept on a safety level, right? So, have you ever had an instinct that told you, I probably shouldn't go in this direction or that direction?
I have. Oh, yeah.
This is your safety level of the environment talking to you on an intimate level, being whole and complete as a person. Somehow, some way, intuitively, instinctively, you start to be able to pick up on these safety areas of concern, and you just make a quiet decision, non-vocal, non-boisterous, that you're just not going to do this or that, or you're going to do this or that, but you don't need to explain it. It's just something that's so natural, and it comes so natural that you just do it, right?
I hear you. So that point you made about us having a reflected sort of communication in our environment, being able to know intimately with our intuition whether we are going to face something that we need to, be more conscious of. We talked about something that has to do with this in, I believe it was the Destiny and Fate episode.
Yes.
Where we were talking about the ability of the human heart.
Mm-hmm.
And the human heart, what researchers have discovered about the human heart at HeartMath Institute, and we'll have a link for their website below, by the way, is that your heart picks up 2 to 14 seconds before an event occurs. It picks up on what is about to happen. And the way that they did this was they had emotionally charged images that they would show people, and they would have heart monitors and heart readers, and their heart rate would change before that image was shown to them 2 to 14 seconds before they actually received that visually. So there is something to keep on your radar. And there's another sound for you.
The next one, the next level, if you allow me to, I want to be able to take you into a level that really resonates with a lot of people in a way, both super positive, super negative. And that is love and belonging. Listeners, who amongst you doesn't want to be authentically loved? Who amongst you doesn't, ever want to belong to anybody? And what I mean by that is that having a mother or a father, having that connection, having that bond, having that teaching, training, motivating, directing, and guiding element, that person in your life that you need to be able to supersede your normal understandings of love and belonging. Now, Noah, when it comes to love and belonging, what resonates with you the most in being able to manifest that on a daily basis?
Well, that's a very easy one. That's a closeness to our Creator and our Lord Jesus Christ. And I'm loving using this button, man. I can't tell you how much I love that button, because it is so important. It's so important because He is the source of all the good gifts. Every good gift comes from heaven. And so when we are able to connect with that source more and more on a daily basis, whether it's from memorizing scripture, whether it's from praying, whether it's from keeping Him in mind and thinking about His teachings, thinking about His love for you, having that connection is the most important thing to be able to connect with belongingness and love needs, whether or not they are already in your life in a way that you can resonate with.
Yes. And just to be able to bring the point home is that love and belonging are two of the most predominant feelings that you experience from reading the Bible without saying it to another human being. For some odd reason, and when I was young, I always thought it was kind of spooky on how I would start to feel and think a certain way that wasn't naturally my own, but knowing that it was not hurtful, it was not deceitful, and that it was not dishonest. It was just a very raw emotional feeling about something that I've read. Now understand the reason why, and I'm going to keep driving this home, why reading is so important is because we read each other on a daily basis. Visually, physically, right? And when you talk to people, communication-wise, everything is a reading element when you're dealing with another person.
Yes, and a lot of those are snapshot decisions made in the moment.
Right. So, in order to be able to truly know your element, is to truly know the person in your environment, right? And so, when it comes to belonging and your love needs, the best teacher is someone that needs not a single thing from you than belief, trust, and faith. That when you read the Bible, when you read the good book, it produces the result not only that you have been thinking about and have thought about, but even results that you have not even fathomed or imagined yet.
Yes, and I can't emphasize enough how much importance is in going into the Bible with an open mind, going into the Bible with a clear conscience, not going in with any predetermined or what's the word I'm looking for? Any
presumed outcome.
Yes, that's the one. Any presumptions.
Mm-hmm. Because I understand, listeners, is that many of you have spoken to me and have said, Pastor, when I read the Bible, I don't get it. It doesn't communicate with me. And what is the missing element in that communication is two things. One, your open-mindedness, and two, your willingness to be able to apply something that you don't learn in school.
Is that like emotional intelligence you're talking about? Is that a connection to love? What are these things that we can apply?
The things that you can apply immediately without any education is knowledge, understanding, and ability to be able to then know that you are not disempowered, that you're not disproving of something, but that you actually belong to something that no one's ever talked to you about previously. Everyone that you read in the Bible is an ancestor. Everyone in everyone's story is family.
Ooh, there's a truth bomb. Boom.
Because the bottom line is that we are all family with Christ. We are all brothers and sisters with Christ, right?
That's right.
Why is that?
Because you have that most important aspect of your entire life that there's ever been. You have that relatability with them. You have the same parent.
More importantly is that in spirit, we all look the same. There is not a bigger spirit, a fatter spirit, a skinnier spirit. We are all energy. We are all one. And that is the most freeing thing that most people want in their life. Listeners, I'm just telling you, this is kind of another truth bomb, but every one of us wants something that we don't naturally have, but then once we receive it, a lot of times we are not prepared for the outcome. And with God's word there is no worry, there is no concern, but just loving needs resolved.
You know, that's a truth bomb for sure, but that's a golden nugget. So write that one down, listeners. As you can see, I'm having a lot of fun with these sounds, man. All right. Belongingness and love needs. Now, this one is a level of the pyramid that I think that could go hand in hand or be even on the same level as or above the level of the next one that we're going to be talking about, which is esteem needs.
Right. Now, when you're talking about esteem needs, Noah, break that word down. What does esteem mean?
Esteem is your self-image. Self-esteem, that's your self-image. How you are esteemed in life is how people look at you. So how you look at yourself and how other people look at you both have to do with esteem. And so many people in their lives get their self-esteem from how other people look at them. Whereas when you have your roots in faith, when you have your roots in God, you can see yourself for how God sees you, which is so, so important. And it, I think, is a huge boost to your self-esteem, but also one that keeps you in check, keeps you in place, and doesn't allow you to make decisions that are going to bring shame and then lower that self-esteem in the future.
Noah, let me ask you a question.
Go right ahead. I'm all ears.
Have you ever seen an animal for the very first time, cat, dog, doesn't matter, right? Go up to a mirror and value what it sees?
There's this one video that came straight to my mind, and if any of you have listened or saw this video, listeners, go ahead and leave a comment below, and I want to share this with you because it's an awesome video. This cat is looking in the mirror, and it realizes it has ears in this video, and it puts its paws up, and it feels its ears, and it's looking in the mirror, and then it drops down and comes back up. It's hilarious. But yeah, that's exactly what was happening. That animal was starting to understand its own
makeup.
Yeah, its own biology.
Understand, listeners, is that if God gives you the ability to be able to have past sight, to be able to remember back when you first looked into a mirror and to be able to say to yourself, that's who I am. That's what I look like. Because I hear this voice in my head, but until a mirror is present, you have a different image of what you think you look like.
Yes, and even the mirror isn't a pure reflection, because that's a mirrored reflection, right?
Correct.
So I've heard that it is really powerful to gaze into I forget the name of this type of mirror, but it's two mirrors that are put into a corner, and it shows, it splits your face in half, and then it reconnects it to be the exact way that someone else would see you.
Correct. So, listeners, the important part about what he was mentioning is that often, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, we feel divided when we see ourselves. We don't see ourselves automatically as whole and complete as people. Our society, our good leaders and our teachers and our mentors and our coaches and our elders that we look up to all come across this same issue. And this issue is reflective self-imaging, right? Is that if you never got a chance to be able to see what you look like, you're still drawing a picture of what you could look like in your mind. And for some people that have been born blind, have authentically been able to dictate to a crime scene
A sketch
artist, and have been able to draw what they think that they look like, right?
I'm just taking the opportunity.
Yeah. But
that's amazing, though.
But in reality is that when that image is portrayed back to them, if they're able to have sight at all, they are stunned to be able to see what no one else sees. And what is that? The perfect image of what they spiritually want to be.
I don't even know what to say to that.
So the reason why I'm saying what I'm saying is, if you can remember back to when you were a little child and that you were literally trying to be able to learn your ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, and that if you had a good mentor or a teacher or a parent that valued reflective teaching, and what reflective teaching is, now repeat after me, child, A, B, C, D, right?
Right.
That's reflective learning, right? Imagine the huge levels of empowerment if you were to have never seen yourself but seen God in you first. How differently would your whole entire character be? You could not fail. You could not degrade your character. You could not be able to do those things because you would not want to be able to do that to the one God that loved you first, that gave you the sight and the ability to be able to see your authentic self first as the greatest gift that he could have given you without saying a word.
Thank you for all the powerful golden nuggets on this episode. I knew you'd have a lot to say on this one. This is a powerful subject. Now, I want to remind you listeners that this pyramid is not defined in its levels. The levels sort of do blur together, and this is something that Maslow made sure that people understood, that the levels are not definitive. They have blurry lines between them.
Correct. And the last one is self-actualization.
Yes, and this is the tip of the pyramid.
And this is the very tip of the pyramid. But now, your pyramid could be a reverse pyramid.
I do understand what you're saying by that, and I'll just go ahead and say it straight up. Self-actualization, when you have that, and when you are self-actualized, all your other needs in the pyramid are being met. So instead of, flipping over the pyramid, you could even say that that tip of the pyramid just manifests a dome that just encompasses the entire rest of the pyramid.
Yeah. No, let me ask you a question. Have you ever played with a snow globe?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Have you ever smashed one?
I have never broken a snow globe. I have not been in front of too many of those in my life.
Right. But if you were to be able to look at or watch a video of a snow globe exploding, not imploding, right?
Okay.
What happens to the snow?
I don't know, Kevin. Lay it on me.
If you broke the glass but did not move the foundation, most of the snow that was floating in that water goes right to the foundation of the base of the snow globe, right?
Okay, so piece the puzzle together for me. And how does this have to do with self-actualization?
The snow in a snow globe is like the physiological needs, the safety needs, the love needs, the belonging needs, and the esteem needs, all wrapped up in a beautiful vessel.
Right. Because when you are self-actualized, all those other needs are falling into place.
They are your environment, right?
Right.
But even when your environment cracks or breaks, there's a natural law, God's law, that even when things break, water rushes out. There's still snow on the ground from which it came. And that each piece of snow knows its place and has always known its place. So when we give these little specks of negativity power over us, when we give our entity the ability to believe in something false, something fake, something that is not real, it'll pour right out of that glass.
Right.
Because it has no place in your environment
Right.
for authenticated truth, right?
Right.
So think of these different elements, your physiological needs, your safety needs, your love needs, your belonging needs, and your esteem needs, and then your self-actualization needs as that snow globe.
And so when this snow globe smashes, explodes,
When it cracks and leaks out.
Right. That's the world that is falling apart around you, but you still have all those needs being met contained on that foundation, which is self-actualization. When you can have that foundation in your life, you can have all these other needs met just naturally falling into place, no matter what is going on in the world around you.
It knows its own place and falls there naturally. You don't have to command it. You do not have to be able to say, snow, you must fall 1 inch from me.
Right, because just being who you are is enough to meet all those needs when you are self-actualized. If you are not self-actualized yet, you're going to have different needs not being met in certain areas. And this isn't to get you down if you're not having all your needs met in life. I don't even think I have all my needs met in life at this moment in time. So self-actualization, though, is something that we can always be constantly working towards and building towards in order to be more secure in the world that we live in a world that's falling apart even at this moment.
No, let me ask you another question.
Go right ahead.
Have you ever broken a mirror?
I don't think I have. Oh, yes, I have broken a mirror. That's bad luck. I'm just kidding. I don't believe in luck.
Right, and it's not bad luck. The bottom line is that in those mirrored fragments that have broken, is it still not reflective? Is it still not a mirror, but just in mirror pieces?
Yeah. Yep.
Now visualize your life that way. People try to be able to break you each and every day. People try to be able to shatter your pieces. People try to be able to tell you that your reflection is not beautiful, that it's not inspiring, that it's not worthy of their presence, right? But every time that you look at any of those shards of glass that are on the ground that are shattered, your image still reflects back to your eyes to be able to tell you emotionally, physically, and spiritually that you're still whole.
You're still whole, right? I hear you.
But now you just got more pieces of your wholeness to be able to spread around. Noah, let me ask you a question.
All right, here we go. Third one, I'm ready. Third one's a charm.
Do you listen to your own words and learn from them?
Or I listen to the mistakes in my own words and learn from them, yes.
But if you listen to your own voice, and if you listen to what you say, it speaks a lot about your environment and what you do today.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, listeners, what I encourage you to be able to do is to be able to listen with intimacy to the words that are coming out of your mouth.
Yes, and a few key words that we need to avoid are can't, don't, shouldn't. These open-ended sort of words that are disempowering. And so if you're saying, I can't do this, I can't do that, all over the place, you can, it's just you won't based on your intelligent, well-informed decision that you're making.
Let me break it down even simpler if you allow me to.
Go ahead.
Every syllable of every vowel, of every verb, of every pronoun is a form of worship. When you put your own words to it, you're either praising yourself or demoting yourself. God's not present during that time.
Not only is it a form of worship, but it's a form of manifestation. And if you are manifesting these disempowering beliefs, if you are speaking them into existence, not only thinking them, because thoughts have power too, and this is known, but if you're speaking them into existence, you're really getting another step of energy in behind it. So you don't want to be doing that, because that's only going to disempower you, and you don't want to speak that into your own existence.
Do you know that God has selective hearing? To where he rebukes immediately before you even have the ability to the words that are about ready to come out of your mouth. So to be able to say that words are not power is a lie. If you want to be able to completely transform your very life, become an expert at every noun, of every verb, of every pronoun, an adjective that there is, in a positive way, and watch naturally your life transcend in the manner that God had created you in the first place.
Amen. All right, I think our podcast is coming to a close here. We are running out of time. If you enjoyed this podcast, listeners, please give it a like. Please subscribe to our channel if you haven't subscribed yet, and press that bell icon if you are listening on YouTube, so that you can get notified whenever a new podcast comes out. And we will meet you on the next podcast. This has been A Meaningful Life, talking about Maslow's Pyramid of Needs. Thanks for listening.
This has been another life-enhancing, authenticated podcast aired by the OIC and brought to you by the faithful OIC sponsors and contributors. Please tune in every week and subscribe to our podcast. And while you're there, explore our website with all the posts, videos, and podcasts that we have created with you in mind. While you're on the journey through our website, you will see our Patreon page where you can become a faithful contributor yourself with the freedom to be a part of our team today. Thank you.